Hey everyone, welcome back to the Holistic Navigator podcast, where we believe in the body's capacity for self-healing if it's given the proper nutrients and care it deserves. My name is Brian Strickland. I'm the producer of the show, and here with me in the studio, as always, is your host, Ed Jones. And on today's episode, we're taking a slight departure from our normal format. For all those who didn't know, April 28th is actually National Superhero Day, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Now, you may not be injected with radioactive spider venom, but there are ways that you can become your own superhero through simple steps that you can take that can radically change your life, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So, let me go ahead and get this thing started. I'll introduce your host, Mr. Ed Jones.
Thank you as always, Brian, and I am so kind of excited and also nervous about this particular podcast because it kind of came out of the clear blue, and I just loved the concept of the Superhero Day on April 28th and had never, ever thought about doing something like this. You know, a wonderful friend of mine introduced me to the Marvel superheroes not that long ago in my life, and I never thought I would enjoy watching them, but totally was sucked in, intrigued, and really motivated me in some areas as kind of a hero, fantasy hero. But I came to realize that we all have the ability generally to reach a status of health, vitality, resilience, robustness, embrace life with far more fire in our heart than I think most of us give us our own credit for. And I've certainly been in those moments where, Father Time is wearing me down, work, emotions, lack of sleep or things. And it kind of was throwing the towel in a little bit. But I've always made a comeback. And every time I see other people do this through their hardships, I am inspired because they didn't usually rise back to the top with just luck alone. It took a plan to reinvigorate the natural powers that we were born with. These aren't given to us from a special elixir somewhere or another planet. We actually have them already within, or we would not be able to access them. So today I'm going to give you my 5 steps to hopefully, if you choose to, enter the superhero club. And what do I mean by superhero is not conquering the world, but conquering a lot of the challenges of your own world that you kind of doubted you could do. And, observing thousands of individuals over my career, including my own aging, has been a great teacher for me. I remember so well watching with envy, even when I was 8 years old back in the day, 60s and 70s, to TV characters such as the $1 Million Man, Jack LaLanne, the Hulk, Tarzan, and several others, where they were able to access their way above normal powers and certainly were considered superpowers. But in the past decade of my life, I became really, like I said, taken in by the superheroes such as Wolverine. He seems to be my favorite. And how they withstood enemies and hardships and prevailed just was really cool fantasy, but also a slice of reality. There's a lot to do with human biochemistry and aging of our body. And for over 4 decades, that's given me the opportunity to learn by observation, study, and actually kind of being a guinea pig to myself. I know there are methods that help to preserve the robust and powerful resilience that the human system is capable of achieving. But we live in a society that often treats our body as a fragile operating system. And this has disempowered many people to kind of give up on their true potential for hero status past the young age. When you're young and foolish, you don't think about those things. But even at 30 years old, people have really kind of sometimes turn the corner and are treading water. And because of this disconnection and not embracing what I'm going to speak about, this age-old survival mechanisms are not triggered anymore, and we've lost touch with this inner power. So what do I mean by superhero status? Wolverine possessed very keen senses, enhanced physical capabilities, and a powerful regenerative ability known as healing factor. I love that word, healing factor. Guess what? We are all capable of escalating these same powers if we can embrace the steps that I'm going to talk about to superhero status. Powers to continue being physically strong in everyday activities, regardless of your age. Healing quickly when ill, despite the condition. Preserving your balance, lung powers, and the ability to continue to think quickly and efficiently to solve life's daily problems, instead of many people's constant brain fog, slow memory, fatigue. And, having a lot of ability to bounce back from stresses that normal living just gives us. I'm not talking about invading other planets and conquering, the 10 enemies that come attacking. I'm talking about conquering your own life. And it's time to take charge because it is possible to accomplish this. Before I really get into it, I want you to understand that there is a word that very few people know, and I was intrigued by it by the very first time that I had heard the definition of this. And it's a word called hormesis, and it applies very clearly to the body, the health, the achieving of superhero status. And in the dictionary, hormesis is defined as a phenomenon termed hormesis describes an evolutionary conserved process by which a cell or entire organism can be preconditioned, meaning that previous exposures to low doses of an insult protects against a higher, normally harmful or lethal dose of the same stressor. Growing evidence suggests that hormesis is directly linked to an organism's capability to cope with pathological conditions such as aging and age-related diseases. The bottom line of this word, hormesis, is defined by me that what can potentially kill us in excess can empower us at lower doses. And a lot of people don't understand that we have tremendous capabilities, but when you baby yourself, you get weaker and weaker with age. That can be mentally, emotionally, and physically, not just the physical. And we need to embrace an idea that and understand that the less we push ourselves to the limit with exercise, breathing, fasting, exposure to heat and cold, different nutrient cycles, the weaker we are going to become. And hormesis is actually the method of groups such as the Navy SEALs, Olympic athletes, Special Forces, and many other groups use to excel in their field. The tactic for them is to take their body and mind to the absolute limit just for a bit, and then back off slightly. This produces the potential of superhero powers. But as we age, the truth is that we must expand this program, not reduce it, to preserve the body with the wear and tear. Well, I'm about to offer you a plan, if you are interested, that potentially allows you to join the superhero club, but only if you have the commitment, discipline, and fortitude to stick to this plan. So I've got 5 different topics here. The first one I call the Wolverine diet. The power of the knife and fork is literally unparalleled regarding supporting the body for our superhero status. We must remember that nature offers blessings to the young, but is not always so kind as Father Time starts stripping it away, even as early as age 25. This is why we must be aggressive and wise to maintain or regain these powers that we're losing. So today, in this moment, I want to talk about the diet. There's hundreds, maybe thousands of different opinions and ideas, and I'm not sitting here telling you that I have all your answers. I'm just saying this is what I observe to be the best practical method to embrace for the topic that I'm speaking about. So we first have to look at what I call the macros. The macros are the percentage of fat, protein, carbs, and fiber within your daily diet. And in my opinion, this is what I would take to the bank. Somewhere between 1/2 to 1 gram of quality protein needs to be consumed most days of the week for you. That's a pretty good range, 1/2 to 1 gram. Depends on your activity level, your age, your health, but that is where I feel comfortable. Anything more than 1.5 grams, not too comfortable. Anything less than 1/2 gram will not support the function of the body. I'm a kind of a leaning toward a keto kind of guy. If you look back on the Holistic Navigator, you will see a podcast on keto and how I do it. But I think the average individual should work toward 5 days a week of being on a relatively low-carb diet between 50 and 80 carbohydrates for 5 days a week, and 2 days a week, we must cycle off of this. That means you can go all the way up to 200 carbs. They need to be chosen wisely. That doesn't mean you're going to eat French fries and potato chips, but you can have plenty of things. I generally have a pizza on Sunday. Now, fats are the other part of the macro. They should comprise about half of your calories at least, and they should be coming from foods such as raw nuts, avocados, quality olive oil, coconut, and organic butter. And what these guidelines support is the repair of the muscular structure within the body as it's being trained and tested. The goal is to stay in at least a slight anabolic state where the muscle is preserved and built and not declining. Secondly, is you have to address the proper level of calories because that must be present in order to maintain the proper body weight. You know what? Too many or not enough will reduce any chances of optimal results. I'm fortunate. I have a very fast metabolism. My frustration is not getting enough calories. One is because I'm very cautious about my foods. It's very easy to get calories when you don't think about what you're going to eat next and you pull into a fast food place. And then thirdly is consuming the cleanest types of these foods, whether they be the proteins, the fats, or the vegetable plant-based foods. And this is very important for the health of the body. One item that I'm 1,000% convinced of, and I think you may be if you're listening to me, is food is power. You know, we have an internal pharmacy within us that we can access, but we can only do it through the right nutrition in foods. And you know, many of you listening may be like me. You may eat out quite often because of the pace of life and the lack of time to fix foods. And many people think, well, I can't be healthy because I'm eating out. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Very few people eat out as much as I do. And I did a podcast on the Holistic Navigator, and all of these links will be listed at the on the notes after the podcast is posted. And it's basically, the title of it is How to Eat Out Healthy. It's about a 30-minute podcast, and I really nail it down of what you need to do to be super healthy, even if you're eating out. Now, in the diet, the last point I want to make is breakfast. You know, there's always been the powerful statements that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and a lot of grandmothers' wisdom is now returning because it is the most important. Why is it? It's because it actually sets the pace and thermostat for the rest of your day. When I say thermostat, your blood chemistry. And when you start the day with the perfect macro numbers, again, the fats, protein, and carbs, you are setting yourself up for success. When you start it improperly, by the completely wrong macros, which is what most people do because of convenience. You're doing the cereals and the bagels and the fruit and all of this with low protein and no healthy fat. I don't care what you do at lunch and supper, you've blown the deal. You will not be able to hold and build muscle as well, keep your energy, and you will not be burning body fat. So I came up with what we call Ed's breakfast drink, and it just comprises 3 different items. It is a keto-leaning drink, and I do it 6 days a week, and I eat foods only on Sunday, which I do enjoy 1 day a week, but I never actually feel as good on that day as I do when I drink it. And because of this drink, my body fat is now, not by any means bragging, is now down to the lowest it's been in 63 years, which is 9.3%. And my strength is as good as ever in the gym on the upper body. I do struggle sometimes with a little bit of tendonitis on legs, so that's what is my challenge at the moment. So I've covered the diet as well as I can in a short time. On the Holistic Navigator, we have about 96 podcasts, several of which deal with different components of diet. Please check back on what we have already posted, and you may find other things of interest.
Hey gang, we're going to take a quick minute to tell you a little about our sponsor for this episode. Now, you've likely heard us talk about host defense mushrooms on the show before, but we honestly just can't tell you enough about how incredible this company is. They're one of the premier mushroom manufacturers in the US, and they believe that mushrooms are a functional food, and they can be used daily to help augment the body's immune system, support stress and fatigue reduction, and provide support for daily environmental assaults. They're safe, they're contaminant-free, and they are incredibly effective. And host defense is a little unique in the fact that they include mushroom mycelium in their formulas. And mycelium is the root-like structure that mushrooms have below the surface of the ground. So you're getting as much support possible with all host defense products. Not to mention that their mushrooms are grown on their own farm and they only use the highest quality USDA organic non-GMO ingredients in their products. From the memory and focus support of lion's mane to the immune support compounds found in the My Community formula, they have something for everyone. To learn more, you can visit hostdefense.com.
Now, number 2. This is my demon, sleep. You know, we rebuild both the brain and the body during the healthy phases of sleep. And insomnia is epidemic in this country, and it will always lessen our chance to reach success and superhero status if it continues. And you know what? No one has insomnia due to an Ambien deficiency. That's a joke. But yet you go to the doctor, that's generally what you'll get. That's kind of like putting a big piece of tape on a red light on your car. It's just ignoring the underlying issue. But the problem is, most of us have lost the rhythm of sleep. The rhythm. Because I love this analogy I heard many years ago that you don't come home from work and down the interstate at 60, you pull off on the secondary roads at 50, you're going down the roads of your neighborhood at 30. You actually slow down way before your house. You're not going to pull in your driveway at 30 miles an hour. This is what we need to do with sleep. We need to start winding down far earlier. But the other beginning steps to improve your hero's sleep is this. Always have a product called GABA, G-A-B-A. This calms the brain. You know, most insomnia and waking up during the middle of the night is due to something I call cognitive popcorn. The thoughts are just creating themselves on top of creating themselves, and it prevents you from going back to sleep. Well, GABA is something I've used now for almost 5 years. It's totally natural, and I take it and place it next to my bed with a cup of water. I can go to sleep just fine. It's that 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock reawakening where I can't get back to the deep sleep. But if I'll take 1,000 milligrams of GABA, sometimes I will do it at bedtime, but then I'll have to do it middle of the night because it only lasts 3 hours. But it's a game changer. And anyone can do it. Again, if you have medical conditions that are serious, ask your doctor, but it's extremely safe. And my second tip of the day for sleep, and this will be an odd one. Most people have never heard of this, but it is a game changer. It is taping your mouth closed with a special tape. Yes, mouth breathing at night is deadly to our health because it changes the oxygen and carbon dioxide ratios to a point where you can't achieve deep sleep. When you don't achieve deep sleep, your kidneys don't shut down. Sometimes that's why we get up to go to the bathrooms, not because we drank too much. It's because they normally need to be told to go to sleep along with everything else, and it's not happening. And I talk about this on the podcast on the Holistic Navigator on the sleep one, which we will have that link for. Because on the podcast, there's actually 12 steps to recreate rhythm. There's no magic bullets. It is just a path and a toolbox that you need to assemble. And I can assure you that things will change when you put that together. Number 3, we have to optimize the digestion and gut integrity. You know, very few people realize that much of our superpowers actually originate within the gut, which comprises stomach, small intestines, and large intestines. And you know, stretched out end to end, our intestines would cover at least a half of a tennis court. And despite the old theory that the gut or intestines is simply a piece of plumbing to transport waste, it's actually an organ that has vital functions across the board. And creating super healing capacity from our immune system, kind of like Wolverine had the super healing capacity, It's been destroyed so much by the foods and the drugs we consume. And we have to establish a better balance within the gut to ever have hope of achieving optimal hero status. You simply cannot stay strong, resilient, and recover without this system supercharged. We all know that if we get food poisoning, how weak you become. Well, many people walk around with gut inflammation constantly, which is not as bad as food poisoning, but it's weakening the system. I recommend people to reduce gluten. Make sure you take the correct probiotic, and often past the age of 35 or 40, taking a digestive enzyme and focusing on more foods like organic that do not have glyphosate, which is something I talk about on the Holistic Navigator often, which is actually an antibiotic that's sprayed on our foods. And I found many individuals have year after year imbalances of something that is overgrowing in the gut. It's actually called SIBO, small intestinal bowel overgrowth. I interviewed Brenda Watson, who was on PBS for 12 years and really regarded as an expert on gut health, and that will be in the links below on the notes. But listening to Brenda Watson gives you the options of how to solve this issue of SIBO. Number 4, hormones and blood work. You know, hormones are actually just communicators within the body. They send instructions to different systems that can accomplish the goals that the body thinks it needs. It's obvious that young people have much higher levels of hormones than those over 40. They recover faster, have less inflammation, better skin, more moisture, more muscle. The list goes on and on. I am convinced that the exposure in our present living world, our workplace, foods we eat, toxins, and our continual stress is devastating the hormone levels in many individuals. This is why I strongly recommend getting a full blood panel on hormones and other constituents of blood chemistry. And the second take-home point is to not believe that you are fine and healthy if you fall in the normal ranges. Normal is as far from hero status as you can get, almost. You know, normal is what's keeping the hospitals and doctors' offices busier than ever. Normal is filling the drugstores with people all day long. And so we have to know that we need to find optimal levels, not normal, if your goal is a superhero club. And that comes with altering your lifestyle and nutrition program in order to reach these levels. And people who are in maybe cities where they don't have other healthcare individuals to help them on this path, we are here to help you help yourself. One of the great podcasts that I did was Dr. Pucci in New York. He takes patients online, and he is a functional medicine physician that I'm very, very thrilled about, that can help you in regard to getting the blood work, analyzing it, and knowing the value and what to do with that. And also, I interviewed Dr. Roundtree myself on the Holistic Navigator, and this gentleman explained what blood tests to get very quickly and succinctly, and after listening, you'll know the value of those and what to do about it. Now, number 5 is exercises. You know, you could do a 3-hour podcast on exercise alone, and again, everyone is different. We must tailor this for each individual. But activity is imperative to elevate our body and mind to superhero status. Imperative with a capital I. There's no way you're going to do it if you're not pushing yourself in some form or fashion in a gym or some kind of activity. The key, though, is it being done properly, but very intensive, but also non-injuring routines. Each person must journey into this on their own individual basis. And the first key to success is it must be done on no less than 4 days a week. And I think 5 is being ideal. Secondly, is the body does need recoveries, so 2 days a week should always be off days. And nothing sends signals to our muscles, bones, hormones, inflammation reductions, digestion, reducing cortisol as intensive training in some modality, generally being in the gym or weight training. And intensive means that if, at least from a gym standpoint, if you go to the gym and you press, say, shoulder press, bench press, 8 reps on a machine, and you could have done 10. It was not intensive. That doesn't mean you kill yourself every single set, but if you walk away from the gym knowing that you did not give 100%, you're not going to activate this primal healing power that we need to reawaken. Pushing the limit just a few times each workout is what triggers this Hormesis power of building the superhero powers. The second part of the superhero plan is embracing any number of other challenges that retrieve these powers we were born with. I love Wim Hof. He's called the Iceman. He's a superhero. There's no doubt. He utilizes breath holding and cold therapy to bring out this power. He has accomplished feats that sound literally impossible to me. But he's also trained many normal individuals to achieve similar goals with his ideas. And it's all about commitment, trusting the body, nourishing with strong nutrition, and not giving in to the idea that our bodies are fragile and ready to break. I personally do breath holding in the pool at times. 3 minutes is my number. I do push-ups on one breath every 2 to 3 weeks. I do 75. And picking an exercise and going until you cannot push one more rep, then you do 2 more. That's how you do it. I've done 285 chin-ups in 1 hour. And you know, just recently, I was so moved by this speech that I heard on YouTube from a military Navy SEAL, Marcus Luttrell, regarding his injuries in a battle. Mr. Luttrell had broken his back in 3 places due to bombs and bullets and the enemy. His nose was pushed into his face. He had bit half his tongue off and was paralyzed from the hip down after the bomb had thrown him down this big ravine. And he was at a point of death, he said, and could barely move. And he told himself not to give up. He was paralyzed from the hip down. And what he did was he grabbed a rock, and he would take this rock and would scratch a line in the sand above his head. And every time he would crawl by the inches to that line where his feet hit the line, and he would draw another line. He did this for 7 miles. You know what? This is what we are all capable of if we can train and believe and stay strong before the storms of life hit us. We also are going to post his inspirational video at the end of this. And I love the fact that President Roosevelt once said, you know, it's far better, isn't it, to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy nor suffer much, because they live in a gray twilight that knows not victory nor defeat. And you know, I look around, and there's been many times in my life I've been in the gray twilight. I hope I can encourage you to analyze where you are, and if you're not happy with that, draw that line in the sand and keep on crawling. Number 6 is the Core 4 superhero supplements. You know, I've observed tens of thousands of individuals over my 4+ decades of professionally committing my life to nutrition and health, and it showed me one thing of grand importance. The human body desperately requires optimal nutritional support from early life to old age, and we cannot expect foods to supply all these needs. The reasons for this are varied, but everything from soil depletion to foods picked before they're ripe, pesticides, fungicides on almost all foods, and improper preparation, even if it is grown right. This is why I feel we must embrace a sound quality nutritional super plan, or the body will remain average at best. But if you're reading this far of this article or listening, you are more than average, and good for you. The Core 4 is what I have detailed after many years of study that must be in place for almost every single person, regardless of goals, but especially those who are wanting to excel in life. I want to make it easy because you walk into any nutrition store and you can be overwhelmed very quickly by the thousands of choices and all the articles written and the opinions. If you just embrace the Core 4, you don't have to think about it much. And it's a relatively simple plan and requires the following daily products. a quality multivitamin. This is not the mass market Centrums and all the other brands. Omega-3s that have proper potency and tested to be free of contaminants. The third one, a green drink. Why would we need a green drink? I have found it alters the pH to far better alkaline levels. It opens the channels of detox and protects our internal chemistry. Next is magnesium. You know, this mineral magnesium I've done a podcast on also because there's over 300 functions that rely within our body on this one single molecule. And again, to learn about that, we will have the link to my podcast on magnesium. And then probiotics, back to the gut and immune health. But that's also found already in the greens powder. So you can go to nutritionw.com and go to the shop now and just hit Core 4 and you can easily see the exact products that I'm speaking about. Well, you know what? I've covered it pretty darn well. And my last notes, and I want to put this out for the people who just need to add the final touches to this program. If you're going to embrace all the things I spoke about, from the diet to the nutrition, to the sleep, to the exercise, a couple other little things that may be of importance that I have learned through my life is we need to put together a team to support your goals and your body. This is not a total solo journey. And because even if we are superheroes or we reach that level, doesn't mean you're not going to have tough days, feel bad at moments, have some injuries. Even the superheroes, they just recovered quicker than we can, but they still had those same issues going on. And that may mean a massage therapist that you find and trust, or a chiropractor, or other body workers. But you need to find these people that you can call on in order to assist your body when it is struggling, because you're pushing it. And there will be moments. I'd much rather wear out than rust out. And that's what's going to happen if you don't keep pushing and you're sitting around too long. And also find a healthcare professional that does understand the value of nutrition and healing modalities, and someone that does not completely involve themselves with pharmaceutical recommendations always. Time and place for it, but it's usually not what we need. And then maybe lastly, locate a gym that really serves your needs, that you feel comfortable in, so that you can look forward to going and maybe having a support group there. And then lastly, stocking your kitchen with the proper foods. When you get home or you're too busy and you're hungry, it's easy to grab things if you don't have better choices. Still not always easy to grab the healthy ones, but it's impossible to grab them if they're not there. And you know, I feel like I've given you a recipe and a plan for reaching levels of performance that you may have only seen on the big screen. I encourage you, do not doubt yourself. To end, I must always keep in mind one important concept regarding this. Even Wolverine and the other superheroes eventually die. And to quote one of my most favorite poets, Mary Oliver, doesn't everything die at last? And too soon. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Draw that line in the sand and get yourself going, because it's time to be superhero. Thank you so much. This is Ed Jones with the Holistic Navigator.
The information on this podcast and the topics discussed have not been evaluated by the FDA or anyone of the medical profession, and is not aimed to replace any advice you may receive from your medical practitioner. The Holistic Navigator assumes no responsibility or liability whatsoever on behalf of any purchaser or listener of these materials. The Holistic Navigator is not a doctor, nor does he claim to be. Please consult your physician before beginning any health regimen.